The Inheritance of a Boy Named 20.
Hi, my name is 20 and I'm an alcoholic. I'm here tonight. Shit. I can't believe that I'm here. But I'm sure it's because of the prayers of my father. My father, who I haven't seen or spoken to for almost 5 years now. I'm sure he has been praying for me to come home, to finally have this, what do they call it? Come to Jesus moment. But my dad wasn't always such a saint. I suppose you could wonder how I got my weird name. Well, I used to think that my story, like my name, was unique. But having listened to some of your stories here tonight, I come to realize that that my own story is not really anything all that special.
20, throughout this night's long and torturous meeting, continued to keep his gaze on the turning, wobbly ceiling fan above the group of people now in front of him. Even here in this meeting, he couldn't stand to have to endure yet another pity-filled gaze from well-meaning people hearing the story of his name. The pity and empathetic looks grew old and quite empty to his mind, probably because nothing good ever came from them anyways. He forced himself on, concentrating solely on sinking the hump-hump sound of that unbalanced fan with its out-of-control turning blades.
You see, my dad, before I was born, was a legendary party hound of sorts. He never went a day or a night without living out a crazy life of party. Well, I don't know. Maybe you heard of him? Ramblin' Jake, the cocktailin' snake. That's what I heard that they called him. No. Well, it was a couple towns over from here, and many years ago, I guess. It was, my dad, Ramblin' Jake's life ambition, I heard, to have more women and more jobs. Then he had drinks or cocktails to consume, and he consumed a lot of them. As you can imagine, he never was very sober, and he could never really keep a job very long. That is, not until he met my mom. And then when she became pregnant, I guess it was almost 19 years ago. Well, that really changed his life. And he even got a job and quit drinking cold turkey, my grandpap told me. According to what my grandma Becca, my mom's mom, told me. Because my dad would never really talk about it. She told me that when my dad found out that he was going to become a father, well, that really began to change his wild partying ways. And then when he found out my mom was going to have twins, a boy and a girl, he used to strut around in front of everybody, proudly calling his soon-to-be twin children his clear vision for his life. My grandma said that he would even joke with my mom that he was going to name his twins 20 and 20 because of this newfound cleared-up vision for his life. So I guess when it all went wrong on that day that I was born, where I was born, and my twin sister was not born, well, not alive anyways. And then when my mother, she began to bleed terribly, and she lost.
He squinted his eyes tighter, watching that fan go round. Its bouncing, hanging light bulbs giving off light rays that stung and pierced through his eyelashes, with little crosses of white light that seemed to go straight through his retina, down into his gullet, and puncture his own already bursting heart. He went on with his story that he told probably hundreds of times before.
She lost so much blood herself that the doctors, they couldn't save her. and I guess she basically bled to death right there in delivery.
He turned his head aside to stare at the shutter-covered windows overlooking the street, avoiding having to see yet again those cross-filled water orbs that attacked his eyes and pierced him through. 20 despised the sounds of shuffling plastic chairs and plastic empathetic sighs and sniffles, interspersed with some throat clearing and phony coughs. All were only noises that loudly and annoyingly drowned out his comforting humph-humph distracting rhythm of the fan. After about a minute of silence, when that fan finally got its beat back, 20 continued on.
Well, my dad, when he filled out my birth certificate, my grandma says that he shouted out, "Fuck! Fuck! Fuck you, God!" He gulped for air, not even sure if the sound was his or if it came from elsewhere. 2020! Vision! God! My ass! My father screamed, "They look at this and deal with this vision. God, you God!"
He screamed into the air at God, not sure again if this was even his own voice or his father's voice, just playing for the 1,000th time in his own tortured head.
And then my dad disappeared into the night. He didn't come back for I guess that it was like 2.5 years. Anyways, on my birth certificate that night, he filled out my name as 20. Well, if you think that's weird, then wait till you hear my middle name. It's 20 as well. Yes, my name is 2020 Peretti.
He shrugged his shoulders as if they were familiar soldiers of hard-fought apathy, an apathy that always seemed to win his battles for him.
I guess my dad did that as kind of a way of coping, or a grieving, rebellious act against God, or out of mourning my mom, or maybe just as a way of honoring my dead sister by giving to me her name as my middle name. I don't know. All I know is that he disappeared after signing it, so they were never able to talk him into changing it, or even get him to consider a more normal name for me. But as I said, my dad disappeared for quite a while. What exactly happened during that time, I'm not sure, and I never really asked him. But whatever happened, when he finally did come home to raise me as a young boy, all I can remember is him being a great dad who loved me an awful lot. I don't remember him ever being drunk or even touching a drink until, well, I'll get into that. But he used to bring me to church every week, or maybe it was even more times than that. It was a church a lot like this one. But I remember that if he wasn't raising me, then my Granny Becca was taking care of me, and they both took great care of me. But then one day when I was about 13, my father must have went on some kind of a bender because he lost his job. My granny came and got me, and I lived with her for 4 or 5 months. One night, and after Granny got done arguing with my dad on the phone, she looked straight at me and said, "Child, you got no hope of ever escaping your daddy's ways. You are doomed to be, just like him. Even when you were in your mama's womb," she said, "it was probably your carousing and carrying on that you inherited from that man that killed your sweet sister and killed my precious darling, Rachel."
It was only those mighty fan blades that prompted him to go on.
It was Granny's dead stare. The way that the things that she... How can someone say that to their own grandkid? She just plopped that out. Just shot it out there onto my plate. How should I have... What could I do? The guilt just festered there in my young 13-year-old brain for, well, until now even.
The visual, crossed daggers just kept striking at his heart.
I don't know anything about the medical issues of being pregnant and birthing, but how can a little baby, how can he kill his own sister in the womb? How does that work? How could I?
His eyes locked onto the fan blades, almost jealous of them and how they could just go round and round like they knew their purpose and didn't need anybody's love or permission or forgiveness. They just were. Humph, humph, humph. They uncaringly chided.
But when my dad finally came out of his bender and came home to get me, and when my grandpa Ike told my dad what Granny had said to me, well, he was, I guess you would say, livid. He told her that he could never forgive her for saying that to me, and that she'll never see her grandson again. And to this day, I haven't seen Grandma Becca. Oh, God, I do miss my Granny. I guess I should forgive her. Or she should forgive me. I don't know.
The sound from the fan seemed to just stop, leaving his severed heart there, bleeding for all to see and only for himself to hear.
Well, soon after that, I ran away from home, away from my father, away from Grandma, from my dead sister, from my mom, from the guilt. I just didn't know what to do with it, so I up and ran. I ran so far away, a 14-year-old runaway, yet I couldn't get away, so I drank. I drank and I drank. A 14-year-old homeless drunk, I guess. Granny was right.
20 clenched his eyes shut, and visions began to race through his mind's eye. Visions of his dad, the booze, the drinks, images of Jesus from his church days as a child. Beer bottles, Granny, Jesus, Dad, the blood, wine bottles, his dead sister, Jesus, jail bars, Grandpa, booze, Jesus, gin bottles, the blood, Dad, parties, beer bottles, hookers, beer, girlfriends, Jesus on the cross, jail cells, Dad, booze, Jesus, whiskey bottles, blood, Jesus, blood, beer, throwing up, Jesus, vodka, hookers, Jesus, Grandma, more vomit, Jesus on the cross, booze, Jesus, living out of a shopping cart, beer, Jesus, car crashes, blood. The images sped up, Jesus, beer, Dad, Grandma, handcuffs, shopping carts, Jesus, dead sister, Jesus on the cross, Mom, blood, Jesus on the cross, beer, Granny, Jesus on the cross, Jesus on the cross. The images slowed as 20 took a deep breath. Jesus risen up, he almost whispered. He pried open his eyes, and those fan blades seemed to be standing still. Like with every wobbling humph, they jerked ahead one position. Humph, humph, humph.
Please forgive me, Father. I miss my father. I miss my grandma. I forgive my grandma. I hope my father can forgive her too, he blurted out.
Those bright, stinging white crosses began to penetrate him again. 20 jumped away from the podium and stumbled through the rows of occupied seats, not able to even see a pity-filled face if even he wanted to. Finding and falling into an empty chair, he glared up, still at those fan blades that began to move again, almost so slowly that they looked like they were turning in the opposite direction. Humph, humph, humph.
What am I even doing here? How do I get out of here? Will my dad want to even see me? How do I even know that he prays for me?
He thought all these doubts to himself, not even noticing, or even caring to notice the sudden electrified silence in the room. The comforting kind of silence that didn't need to come out of a noisy fan motor. Suddenly that silence was broken.
Hello?
A very familiar voice crackled from the shadows.
My name is Jacob Peretti, and I'm an alcoholic. And praise God, my son has come back to me at last.
20 finally tore his tormented, contemptuous gaze away from that space up above, inheriting redemption after all.